Banks loan you money they don't have. They charge interest on it and penalize you if you miss payments. And when they need help, they use loopholes, policies, government funding to protect themselves. And if you don't understand the system, you'll always be at a disadvantage. Thank you guys for watching this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the truth about banks, how they play you, and essentially what you can do about it. All right. Now, before we dive into this is not legal advice. All rights are reserved. So do your own due diligence. I'm going to be talking about a plethora of things. I'm going to be referring to things that you can find online. All right. But this right here should empower you to be able to take action and understand how to be able to flip the script on these banks. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is modern money mechanics. You feel me? Now, you can buy this book online, you dig me? Or you can just type in modern money mechanics and essentially read it for free. You dig me? So essentially in modern money mechanics, just to kind of sum this up, all right, it talks a little bit about fractional reserve banking. And what most of you guys don't know when it comes to fractional reserve, banks don't actually lend out deposits. All right. They create money out of thin air. Okay. So when you take out a loan, you apply, and essentially what happens is, let's just say, for example, you take a $10,000 loan. The bank doesn't pull that money from a vault. Okay. They literally type it into existence in your account. And then also at the same time, according to modern money mechanics, they multiply that by 10 times. So if you take out a loan for 10,000, they're getting 100,000. Okay. And then they keep the 100,000 for themselves. They don't essentially take the money and give you all of it. They don't even give you any of the money at all. Okay. And so essentially what you are doing, you're paying interest on fake money. All right. In modern money mechanics, it talks a little bit about what money is. Money is viewed simply as a tool to facilitate transactions. Only those media that are readily acceptable in exchange for goods, services, and other assets. We're not going to go through this entire book. Okay. Who creates money? Talks a little bit about that as well. Talks about how things started with goldsmiths, and we're going to talk about that as well. Okay. What makes money valuable? In the United States, neither paper currency nor deposits have value as commodities. Intrinsically, a dollar bill is just a piece of paper. Deposits merely book entries. Coins do have some intrinsic value as metal, but generally far less than their face value. Okay, so this is the book of banks. Okay, what limits the amount of money banks can create? Where do banks' reserves come from? What are bank reserves? And again, if you're seriously interested about this, I would definitely tell you to tap into it. Here's an example of what fractional reserve banking looks like. Okay, and again, we're not going to go through all of this, but maybe this is not a video for me to go through this book. But again, I would suggest you guys go and read it. I'm just going to kind of summarize it and talk a little bit about fractional reserve. I just wanted to show you guys the evidence that the information is out there. Literally Googled it online, modern money mechanics. So everything I'm about to talk about is not concepts that you cannot find. All right. So just to the fact that they're going to have you pay interest on fake money. All right. The fact that they are not creating the money is further affirms that, number one, they are not loaning anything. Okay. So essentially you're paying interest on money that was never actually there in the first place. That's one. And essentially banks make billions in profits, and then they charge you real money for digital debt. Okay. And this is why I am very adamant on the things that I teach about, is because the banks are taking advantage of us. All right. And they truly take advantage of people who don't do their own due diligence, who don't want to actually learn this stuff themselves. Okay. I always say this in my videos. The people that benefit are the people who actually learn the information. Okay? So if you don't pay your debts, and this is how they take advantage of you. They charge late fees. They raise their interest rates. And they report you to the credit bureaus so that they can damage your score and essentially further continuously put you in a cycle of disadvantage, put you in a cycle of detriment so they can continue to take advantage of you. All right. So here's how the banks protect themselves, but not you. When you look at 12 USC 1431, 12 USC 1431, you dig me? When you look at 12 USC 1431, powers and duties of banks, it says that this is the powers and duties of banks. Each federal home loan shall have power subject to rules and regulations prescribed by the director to borrow and give security therefore and to pay interest thereon, to issue debentures, bonds, and other obligations upon such terms and conditions that the director may approve, and to do all things necessary for carrying out the provisions of this chapter and all things incident thereto. Okay? Check out 12 USC 1431 and again, do your own due diligence. All right? But essentially, this gives them the ability to have an unlimited money supply, because when you apply for something, they are able to multiply it, and they're not actually giving you money at all. Okay? They're literally just typing it into existence. So because they're not giving you money and essentially, are giving fake loans out, they are not creating the money. I mean, they are not actually loaning you actual money. And on top of that, they're keeping the money. So under 12 USC, banks can pretty much access unlimited funds through the federal home loan banks. Okay? This means that banks never run out money. They will always have liquidity when they need it. But when you need help, they deny you of loans, they charge overdraft fees, and they damage your credit, just like I stated before. Another thing I want to talk about is 31 USC 5118, okay, which is another confirmation that you are not supposed to pay debts. You can go out there and get that money. Back to modern money mechanics, they talked a little bit about how before everything was put in place, it started with goldsmiths, okay? And as early bankers, okay, let me pull this up. It started with the goldsmiths. As early bankers, they initially provided safekeeping services, making a profit from vault storage fees for gold and coins deposited with them. People will redeem their deposit receipts whenever they needed gold or coins to purchase something and physically take the gold or coins to the seller, who in turn would deposit them for safekeeping. Often, with the same banker, everyone soon found it was a lot easier to simply just use the deposit receipts directly as a means of payment. These receipts, which became known as notes, were acceptable as money since whoever held them could go to the banker and exchange them for metallic money. Then bankers discovered that they could make loans merely by giving their promises to pay or banknotes to the borrowers. All right, let's kind of stop there and just unpack real quick. Money or banking really started with goldsmiths. People would come and deliver their gold ingots to a bank teller, and then the bank teller is really just used as a place of storage. And so what the teller would give them, they would give them a receipt, a deposit receipt to say, hey, this person has X amount of gold in the bank. Okay? Very similar to a dollar or very similar to credit. Okay? And so eventually they ended up taking this and essentially turning the stuff into gold, all right? Or turning it into loans. What people would do is, instead of actually going back and exchanging their deposit receipts for the gold, they would just give other people their deposit receipts. And if that person wanted to go and get gold, then they would just go and get gold. But what happened is people stopped going after or picking up their gold. So what the banks decided to do was they decided to just start loaning the stuff out. Okay, we'll give you a loan as long as you pay it back. Now, in this case, it will make sense, right? Because I'm sure There was actual gold in place, and people will have to pay that stuff back because it wasn't the bank's money to begin with. The bank is only a storage place. All right. But now, since the system has changed, now with the Federal Reserve and Federal Home Loan banks, it now puts them in a position where they can pretty much carry out the same exact process, but it's fiat money. It's unlimited. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about 31 USC 5118. 31 USC 5118, gold clauses and consent to sue. In this section, the gold clause means a provision in or related to an obligation alleging to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold, a particular United States coin or currency, or United States money measured in gold or particular United States coin or currency. Public debt obligation means a domestic obligation issued or guaranteed by the United States government to repay money or interest. Okay? The United States government may not pay out any gold. A person lawfully holding United States coin or currency may present the coins and currency to the Secretary of Treasury for exchange dollar for dollar for other United States coins or currencies that may be lawfully held. The Secretary shall make the exchange under the regulations prescribed by the Secretary. Okay? We'll just stop right there. You guys go check this out. But let's just unpack that real quick. So before 1933, which was the House Joint Resolution Act, debts could be paid in gold, and essentially dollars or those deposits were backed by actual gold. But under 31 USC, the government made it illegal for contracts to demand payment in gold, which is the only type of currency that can pay debt, forcing people to use Federal Reserve notes, paper money, to be able to pay their debts back. Okay? This meant that the government removed the real value of the dollar, because the dollar used to be backed by gold, but is not backed by gold anymore, and allowed banks to issue unlimited fiat currency. That's when we talk about the dollar, is literally fiat. Okay. Another confirmation, okay, that the banks will still are taking advantage of you despite the laws that are there, is 18 USC 8, obligations or other security of the United States defined. The term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposits, bills, checks, drafts for money drawn by or upon authorized officers of the United States. Now, who are the authorized officers of the United States? We are, okay? Because we have an SSN. Now, according to 18 USC 8, Federal Reserve notes are technically considered obligations of the United States and not real money. So understanding that when someone says that you have an obligation, they're literally referring to 18 USC 8. Okay? If I'm obligated to pay something, you're literally asking me for something that's not real. All right? This means every dollar you use is actually a form of government debt and not real wealth. Okay? Every time you apply for something, every time you get money, it's just building the government debt. Okay? It's not really real wealth unless you invest it into some assets. Okay? This is why it's not good to just hold money in the bank, because they're just going to use it. Okay? Or better yet, you're not even going to get true value on your money anyways if you just have it sit. You want to go get as much money as you can, this fiat currency, unlimited amount, as much as you can, because you really can. A lot of times we don't do this because we think that we can't. But if you set yourself up, and we'll talk about this and how to be able to flip the script, but if you set yourself up properly, then essentially you could be able to get unlimited fiat money as well, and use the fiat money to your benefit and create your lifestyle, because people still collect fiat money. It's still being exchanged, and in the United States, you can use it to acquire property and assets, all right, to start businesses and develop it, okay? That's the whole point. A lot of people say, well, if money is not real, why do we go and get money then? Well, you utilize it so that you can get assets and build your actual wealth, all right? So essentially, they want you to be dependent on paper money, okay? But I want you to know that paper money loses its value over time through inflation. So you have to invest in assets, okay? Now, also at the same time, because of this, the government bails them out, okay? When banks make bad loans, they don't suffer. They get bailed out by the government because it's technically government debt. They can just file 1099-Cs. They'll basically use the stuff that we are able to use and get out of it because they understand this, okay? Meanwhile, you guys can lose your homes, cars, businesses because of the unfair financial rules, all right? And I quote unfair because it is unfair, but again, they're putting the stuff in front of us and it's up to you to fully understand this and take action on this information here, okay? Whether you're going to use it to get more funding for yourself or whether you're going to use this to actually discharge debt, right? Or be more empowered to learn more about this so that you can discharge debt, okay? So banks really rely on the people who don't know their rights and essentially believe they have no other options. But I'm about to tell you guys how to really flip the script and beat banks, okay? So number one, the first thing you want to do in attacking the banks is know your rights. If you don't know your rights, you will always be at a detriment, okay? So let's talk about some of the things that I always talk about. And obviously you can go check out those videos if you want more information, or I can expound. You ask the right questions, I can expound on those things. But banks and debt collectors count on you not knowing your consumer protection. See, as a consumer, you are protected if you know your rights. If you don't know your rights, then you technically are not protected, okay? This is why it's important for you to tap into the information, tap into the laws, whether you're going to go read them yourself or be assisted and tap into the complete debt guide, okay, which breaks down many of these laws and have more of an expounded explanation on these things and how to be able to apply and utilize this for your circumstance. So let's talk about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The Fair Credit Reporting Act forces banks and bureaus to report accurate data. Now, what is accurate data under the law? Accurate data is not right or wrong. Accurate data is information that is verifiable, information that is not outdated, and information that has a measurement that is also valuable to you. If it is not valuable to you, if the data is not verifiable, it is not accurate data. And verifiable, they have to follow a collection of procedures. They can't just tell you it's verified, okay? The reason why they can't verify data is because the information goes through many different channels that they will have to essentially go to the source and actually get that information. They couldn't say, oh, I got it from this person, I got it from that person. That's not considered verifiable data, because if you know anything about, the game that we played when we was younger, where you would whisper in one ear and then you would take what you hear and then you whisper it in somebody else's ear and you go all the way around the room. What happens is when you go all the way around the room, the message is a little bit different, okay? Another section, understanding the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act when dealing with debt collectors. The first two things, you want to tap in with the FCRA because the FCRA is going to help you remove those negative items off your credit report. Number two, you want to tap into the FDCPA because it's going to allow you to challenge illegal debt collection tactics, allow you to validate debt, and also at the same time know exactly what is needed when you validate debt and what is considered valid debt. There's a collection of procedures and a collection of documentary evidence that you must provide in order for them to validate debt. It's the same exact thing, just like the FCRA, but for debt collection, okay? And they have very strict rules on the harassment, things like calling your phone multiple times, things like saying misleading information and misrepresenting who they actually are, right? Things like asking, hey, what are the source of funds? Things like asking like, hey, what are the statutes of limitations for this debt, okay? And obviously go based off of your state when you go on that route. But the debt collection, validation of debt is a super good process because you can utilize this against any type of loan, credit card debt, collection company, repossessing, to be able to limit repossessions. You know what I mean? Because if they cannot validate the debt, they cannot collect on the debt. If you're disputing a debt, they cannot collect, all right? They have to go through the dispute process before they can collect again. And if you understand the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and you challenge them effectively through an administrative process, which I explain in the complete debt guide, then you will have enough substantial evidence to be able to present in court so that you can be able to substantiate your claims. Okay? Another act that is super important, which is the Truth in Lending Act. The Truth in Lending Act requires banks to disclose any and everything about that loan, such as how they charge interest, such as the actual cost, such as the source of funds, such as, any other thing in regards to your loan agreement, okay? Even they need to be able to prove that they are the creditor under the Truth in Lending Act, which they cannot prove. If you read the Truth in Lending Act, you would know that you are the creditor and they cannot be a creditor, all right? So just to break down how you can pretty much put them in a position where you can flip the script. Number one, challenge debt and dispute everything. If it's a debt you don't want to pay, challenge it and dispute it. Okay? Most banks cannot prove that you actually owe a debt or that they own your debt. Number two, you want to demand validation because if they cannot provide proper documentation, they legally cannot collect or report it. Number three, use credit dispute letters and legal challenges to remove negative items on your credit report. If you use a simple FCRA dispute and you challenge your information on your credit report, they have to provide the evidence. You don't have to know every single law or even use all of the laws that I just talked about, 18 U.S.C. 8, 31 U.S.C. You don't even have to talk about all of those things. You just have to challenge them on it and have them provide proof and evidence. And then after you do this, fix your credit. This is what you're going to do to actually fix your credit, remove debt, remove collections. And then what you want to do is leverage your credit so that you can stop begging for loans. Okay? Instead of relying on bank loans, use business credit and funding strategies to access capital. So if you have good credit, you can go to any bank and get no-doc loans. Okay? If you have above a 680 or better, LLC or EIN, the banks have to loan you money. Okay? It's different when you try to just go under your personal self because then they can do all different types of things and take advantage of you or make you feel some type of way. But if you have a business, you are literally playing in the game. Okay? They see you more as an asset than a liability. But it shouldn't really matter to them because you're an asset either way. Now, understand that banks will use legal loopholes to their advantage, and essentially you want to start using it for yourself. So when I'm talking about the FCRA, when I'm talking about the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, when I'm talking about the Truth in Lending Act, you want to use this stuff to your advantage. And I'm not saying go ahead and get a business loan and then try to discharge it. You can do that. Again, this is not legal advice. All rights reserved. You can do that, but I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you absolutely knew how to do it. And this is why it's important for you to gather as much knowledge as you can so that if you want to do that, you can do it properly. I would say it's possible if you do it properly. Okay? And I can't say that there's just a one surefire way that'll work. All I will say is if you understand your rights under the law and you exercise it, then you'll actually know what to do. Okay? I don't want to come up here and tell you guys, hey, do this and this and this because stuff changes, which is why it's important for you to know the laws. And that's why I make videos about the laws and helping you understand to empower you to go learn it. Okay? The whole point is to play the game the way the banks do. Okay? The banks take advantage of these laws to their benefit and essentially don't do what they tell you to do. Okay? Govern yourself accordingly based off of the laws. Okay? Now, understand that the system is not built for you. All right? But if you understand it, you can stop being a victim. All right? Learn the laws, use credit the smart way, protect yourself from predatory banking tactics, and essentially, if you do all of this, you'll be in position to be able to get no-doc loans up to $250K. You'll actually be able to maximize your business and invest in yourself. You're going to be able to purchase those assets that you need so that you can actually build real wealth. Again, the dollar is not real wealth, so don't be so focused on the dollar. But when you get that dollar, or the point of getting the dollar is so that you can be able to get money, goods, properties, and services to your benefits and exercise your benefits, okay? There's no place in the world like the United States where you can come, have nothing, and then literally come and get $100,000 in funding if you have an LLC EIN and a 680 credit score, okay? You don't have to have a business with massive revenue. You don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't need any of that. All you need is to be smart, study, educate yourself, learn financial literacy, fix your credit, leverage your credit, invest in assets that's gonna make you money. And if you do that, you'll be good. Down below, I have a collection of links from credit repair to funding resources and guides to the complete debt guide that talks about how to be able to communicate with debt collectors and remove collections. Tap in with those, and essentially that can be your start. I love you guys. Appreciate you for tapping into this video, and I'll see you next time.